Hey everyone, I think I am live now. As per usual, this is that awkward beginning part where I can't actually confirm that I'm live, so can you guys do me a solid? And as soon as you see me, assuming you do see this, let me know if I am live and how the audio sounds, etc., etc. I see myself, so I think it's working now. But yeah, we'll just wait a moment. Yes, Chris Schreiber, you are early. We just started. Welcome. Welcome everybody. Okay, so you're all saying hello. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I didn't have any real special plans here. I just I surprisingly had downtime. So I had a couple of choices. I could have, played a video game. I could have watched a movie. Or I thought, I don't know, fuck it. I'll do a live stream. Let's do some Q&A and see who wants to talk, etc., etc. So I don't know, maybe we'll do this for like an hour, maybe. I don't know. Who knows what's up. So yeah. I guess as per usual, I don't. Yeah, like I said, I don't really have any like great stories to start off with. First of all, just want to say thank you to all of you that are already in here. Wow, 100 people already. That's impressive. Hi, hi, hi. Hello, hello. Okay. Uh, my ginger guy. Hey, Adam, you fucking monster! You killed my sleep. Good. I guess I don't know. Yeah, so I guess we'll just do Q&A because I don't really have any like amazing things to talk about. I put out a video today of PS4 Pro unboxing. I did. Yeah, the PS4 Pro thing. All right, so a lot of people are pointing out like because I lost my game saves in that when I did the transfer, and everybody's like, "Oh, you should have just uploaded your saves to the cloud." You have to have PS Plus for that. I don't have PS Plus. For me, it'd be a pointless expense. I never play online, so I don't need it. Yeah, it was unfortunate losing that, but it is what it is. Scott the Canadian is here as one of your admins, as is Stephen McDonald. He is a very dangerous admin, so be careful around him. I've seen him eat a puppy live. He claims it was a human child. I thought it was a puppy, but you know. All right, so yeah, I guess we'll just do some Q&A and then just kind of go from there. What is the worst console I own? Says Maple Leaf Plays. Well, everyone knows my least favorite of all mainstream consoles is the Nintendo Wii. To say the worst console of all time, I think the only one I've ever regretted actually purchasing was the Neo Geo X. Not to be confused with the AES, but the Neo Geo X, that like crappy clone portable thing. Didn't like that. Oh yeah, and of course today the fucking Super Bowl is going on. That's another part of the reason I ironically have time, because all the people I work with are like, no, we're gonna watch the big game, which I don't give two flying fucks about. So I guess let's get that out of the way. I don't care about the Super Bowl. I don't care about that game. I believe it's the only reason I even know who's playing is because I was forced to watch the playoff games that determined who won. So what's the New England Patriots and the Atlanta Falcons, right? I'm going to say go Atlanta only because I was in Atlanta recently and because they're the team that beat Green Bay, which I have nothing against Green Bay. It's just that my buddy Aaron is a big Green Bay fan. So when they lost, he was sad and that made me happy. So go Falcons, I guess. But honestly, I don't give a fuck. Yeah, I guess you guys, I assume most of you aren't really football fans or you're probably not here. American football, hand egg. Do I ever sell games? No, not really. I don't buy to sell, and I very rarely get rid of things unless I have to for some reason, but it doesn't come up very often. Rising Sun says, Adam, I have a CDI coming in the mail. Any recommendations and tips? If possible, what version? Because the only pro tip I really have for that thing is that the RGB out on it is fucking incredibly clean. Go watch my FrameMeister video. You would never expect it out of the CDI. The picture quality is really, really good, but I think only the PAL versions actually support it. I have a CDI 220 and a 450. I think the 220 doesn't support RGB, but the 450 does, and the picture quality is insane. As for games, I mean, you got to get those like Zelda and Mario games just kind of because you have to, even though they're retardedly expensive. But as far as like quality titles, the CDI is really not the machine of choice. I'd say the only game really worth playing on there that I know of, and feel free to correct me down there, that is cheap would be Tetris, which is just fucking Tetris. But I guess it was enhanced a lot on the CDI because it took advantage of the ability to make video and all that stuff. Daniel Chavez says, yes, NBA all the way. Correct. Obviously, got a Derrick Rose jersey there. Obviously, no longer a Chicago Bull. And yes, I know it hangs low in the frame. Yes, I know it's poorly done. I know. It is autographed by him, though, so there's that. And people are asking if I'm getting the Switch. Yes, actually, the last time I live streamed was right after the Nintendo press conference, and I bought it on the live stream. So I've also pre-ordered a bunch of the games. I took advantage of like a bunch of Best Buy deals for that, so it's pretty good. Opinion on the Fallout series. On my other channel, Game Society Pimps, or just Game Society, whatever, we do multiple shows based on that. Fallout 3 for Pimps, Fallout New Vegas for Pimps, Fallout 4 for Pimps, or Fallout 4 Pimps. It's obviously a fun series of games, but my association with it is more on the video production end as opposed to the like gameplay end. Am I excited for the Switch? Yes. Yeah. It's kind of weird to think we're less than a month away from the Switch, everyone. Like it's now February 5th at the time I make this video, and it'll be here on March 3rd. So not much longer to wait. Am I going to pay for the Switch online service later this year? You mean playing online? No, I don't care if, like people are, like I mentioned before, I don't even have PS Plus. Like I don't give a shit. I never play online. RGT85, what's up, dude? Sean's here. Am I scared to get my ass handed to me in Super Bomberman R? I'm not scared because I don't intend to compete against others, but I know I would get destroyed. I accept that fate. I'm like the least competitive gamer. I just go in and just like have fun with it, and anybody's like, oh, I really want to fuck. I'm just like, okay. I was never a competitive person. If PC games had physical releases, would you build a PC and use that? No, I would not. I don't care. You know, I mean, there are a lot of games that have physical PC releases, and it just doesn't. To me, it's not a console. Like literally by its definition, it's a platform. And it's just not a platform I've ever really felt like supporting for gaming purposes. Obviously, there are a shit ton of advantages. I don't dispute that in any way, shape, or form. It's just never been for me. It's too cold. Whereas consoles have a charm of being a package deal. You know, the console is its history, it's the machine itself, it's the games for it, etc. And I know that's not how everyone sees it, obviously. So, but that's how I take it. Am I picking up Puyo Puyo Tetris? Yes, even though I got the Japanese PS4 copy, I will be getting the American Nintendo Switch copy. Is Zelda going to be the first game you play? Possibly. I think I'm trying to remember what's even available at launch. There's not many choices at launch. And I think 1-2 Switch, which I think I pre-ordered. I don't even remember, to be honest with you. It seems like a multiplayer game that you're kind of required to have, obviously, more than one person. Zelda's probably going to be it just by default. I mean, I like Zelda, don't get me wrong, but if I'm being brutally honest here, the only 2 Zelda games I've ever completed are the 2 NES ones. So I have a lot of catching up to do. Did I ever fix the power button on my Jaguar? No, I did not. I wish. A lot of people say that was definitely on my end, and I don't doubt it, but I don't have any way about going about to fix it. It's not really worth the effort, to be honest, because I don't use the Jaguar that much. In fact, most of the time I'm using it, it's literally to test it for video purposes, to compare it to other things. What do I think about the boost mode being added to the PS4 Pro? Okay, so details on this are incredibly limited at the moment, but basically the supposed story goes that Sony is releasing patches, I guess, for the console that will allow it to update and improve already a bunch of catalog titles, and more so than the PS4 Pro specifically targeting individual games, say Uncharted 4 or whatever. This is supposed to be a generic thing that just kind of, now that they've dug more into the PS4, they can use it to upgrade more catalog titles. But beyond that, I don't know anything. Like, it sounds really good, but it could also be one of those marketing things where technically it's doing something, but we don't really know what. So we'll see in time. Brinsley, you just got here. What did you miss? Not much. I've only been going for like 9 minutes. Where to buy an RGB NES? There's a lot of people who mod those things. You can also get Sean, if you're still here, what was the name of it was the NES AVS or something like that, the one that's like $125, $150, and it's an NES from scratch. Scott, you would know too. Will I play Zelda on the Wii U? If I'm getting both versions, I would get the Switch version. Or, I mean, I would play the Switch version. I will be getting it for the Wii U for strictly collector's reasons, but like I don't, I will have the Switch version. So whenever I play it, it'll be the Switch version. What is the best budget Dreamcast VGA box? That depends on what you mean by that. Like if you're asking what literally the cheapest one is, it would be those like shitty Tomy little Tomy RGB cables. Why do I keep saying that? VGA cables, but I would not recommend those to any living person on the planet. I recommend really anything by the Bahar Bros, the Toro, the Hanzo, the Kuro, etc. Those are all really good ones. They all have plus or minus features. I did videos on a bunch of them. You can feel free to check those out. However, I would possibly hold off on that. There is something coming. I can't talk about it, but there's something coming very soon. Do I own GameCube component cables? HM Skills asks. Yes, I do. I have one set. And I only recently learned that those things are not as good as you would expect, because the console supports a digital video signal, as do the cables, but there's that weird like end on it. The reason the GameCube component cables are so expensive is because there's a custom chip inside of them that no one was ever really able to replicate. So what happened was that what happens is the signal, the console is purely digital, and then it has to bring it down to an analog signal, and then your TV reboosts it back to a digital signal. As a result, there's a kind of a significant loss in there. So people with the HDMI GameCubes, the ones that have been modded, are noting that, when that part doesn't happen, it actually looks a lot better. So we'll be seeing what more and more what HDMI modded GameCubes look like. Did I buy the Nintendo Switch Pro controller? Yes. The funny thing about that is Best Buy had them up for pre-order for like 3 hours one day. And I was like, oh shit, how cool is that? And I was about to do it, and then out of nowhere, I got an email from Best Buy being like, you thinking about buying something? Here's a $10 gift card. Like, I shit you not. They just fucking emailed me a $10 gift card, and I was like, sure, all right. Plug that right in. $10 off the order. Why not? What color Joy-Cons? I'm just getting the gray ones. I don't really have any interest in the multicolored shit. Any chance Shenmue 1 and 2 getting digital releases ahead of Shenmue 3? I assume you mean HD releases, either digital or physical. I would say we certainly don't know, but I would assume it's going to happen at some point. It would be silly of it not to, but there's a lot of complications with Shenmue HD that people don't take into consideration. It's not a matter of just like Sega goes, oh shit, people want this, let me just flip a couple switches. Okay, it's on the PS4 now. Like the game was built on a very unique system, basically, and I don't mean the Dreamcast, I mean the engine and everything. It was the way it was built. It was like the first open world game ever, and it was complicated. Simply porting it is not that easy. Not to mention it has a lot of corporate tie-ins and all these other things, where like Timex, for example, is a company in there. Coca-Cola's in the Japanese version. You basically have to go to all these companies and play like bullshit legal whatever. You basically have to go and ask their permission again, and see who's willing to play ball, who isn't, and then based on those answers you have to make changes. So it's obviously a complicated process, and at the same time I'm sure Sega is going, oh, I don't know how much money we really want to spend on that process, because the more they have to do, the less they can make back on it. So I assume they're doing something, but what they're doing is we don't know. What do you think of the Dreamcast component cables by HD Retrovision? I can't believe people are actually buying that crap. Like, all these stupid ass component cables for things like the Genesis and the GameCube, or not GameCube, Genesis, Super Nintendo, Dreamcast. That's a fucking waste of time. Like, don't try. The goal should be to get away from component cables. Component cables are not future-proofed at all. They were really only relevant for like 2 or 3 years, and most TVs and monitors are starting to phase them out now. Good luck finding a 4K TV that has component cables on it. I can't believe anybody is trying to get to that shit. The only advantage I could see to that is for CRT purists who have that brief phase of CRTs that still had component inputs on them. That's what those cables are for. They're not meant for wider groups of people. I would never, ever, ever buy one of those things. Especially when it's so fucking easy to get SCART or RGB basically through something like the FrameMeister and get an HDMI signal out of it, and a high-grade HDMI signal. Converting component to anything like HDMI has proven to be extraordinarily difficult. Even the FrameMeister struggles with it. I would never recommend that shit. Scott the Canadian says, hit that thumbs up button, people. Please, if you don't mind, that would be very helpful. Do I collect or have any promo versions of games? I don't go out of my way to collect them, but I have encountered a few over the years. Sometimes, if it just catches my eye and I see it for cheap or something like that, I'll pick it up. The last one I can remember picking up, and it's just a stupid little example, was Mech Assault 2 for the original Xbox. I found down in Austin, Texas for it was like $1 or something, and it was like a promo edition of the game, and I was like, shit, okay. But I have a few Dreamcast ones, but again, I don't really go out of my way to get them. Sometimes they just pop up with other orders or stuff like that. British Indian food or Chicago deep dish? Choose, says Steve Hutch. Like for one specific meal or for life? That's a tough one, man. So the best Indian food I've ever had in my life was in Nottingham in the UK. It was really good. But of course I love Chicago style deep dish pizza, depending on the place. So if I had to pick one for some reason that I couldn't have for the rest of my life, I guess I would go with the Indian food, only for that specific place. Only because the odds of me going there again anyway aren't very good. Whereas I live in Chicago, so I can get that shit whenever. Steven says, yes, I also found Irish PS2 exclusives. That is true. What were those again? Like Gaelic games, right? I think there's 3 of them. I think I ended up with 2 of them. Do I collect figures? Not really. I have certain characters, not just video game related, but I had some Transformers and stuff. It depends on the franchise, but there are some characters through various franchises, be it movies, television, video games, whatever, where I've thought, okay, I like that character enough that I want a 3D rendering of them in front of me and made out of plastic or metal or whatever it is. And but I'm not in the room that would have any other than a couple of Shenmue based ones. There's a Ryo Hazuki on a forklift that I've got there, and Shenhua, and I do have some amiibos back from when those were super popular, but I only picked a couple of them, not too many. Your Mario, your Luigi, just basic ones. Sonic I've got. A lot of people joining in here, a lot of GSP people, a lot of Game Society fans. Thank you for joining me. Like I said in the title, this is just a Q&A. This is very similar to, on Game Society, we do comedy live shows based on games, obviously. Like today we actually did Ghost Recon Wildlands. And then afterwards we usually do a thing that's called an after party, but it's only for Patreon backers. And we just kind of do Q&A. And this is similar, except it's not a Patreon requirement. Although I do have a Patreon, and I hate bringing it up because I know people don't like to hear it. But if you're interested in supporting that, there are benefits. You get my podcast, you get almost a month early. And now I've actually added a new thing, because here's the deal with my work schedule. When I make videos, I often have to finish them and upload them in advance and just kind of let them go on autopilot for the month because of how rarely I'm actually home. Like last year, I calculated it with some people, and I don't remember who, I think it was possibly Scott. We figured out that I had actually only spent 7 months of the year at home. The other 5 months of the year was in various other places. What that means is you have to finish a bunch of videos and get them set to go. So Patreon backers, now at the $5 tier, you get access to all the videos early just because they're sitting there anyway. Somebody might as well watch them. And then, of course, they go public later. But there you go. But yeah, if you're interested, patreon.com/Adam Koralik. I think it's in the description. If not, it should be. Anyway, yes. So yeah, the point of the whole story there was just to say, yeah, this is just a Q&A. If Shenmue 1 and 2 are getting HD ports, they'll probably reveal it at E3. Yeah, although I don't think Sega is actually going to have like a big display, because they very rarely do anymore, because they don't really make enough games for that. So it would kind of depend on... That's another thing that could be holding up Shenmue HD, is that it's possible that Sega is trying to squeeze some money out of Sony, saying like, hey, you can make this a PS4 exclusive if you're willing to help us with the port costs and all that. Because if they're not, if Sony's uninterested in the full Shenmue package, and I hope they're smart enough to get the whole package, then what it would mean was that Sega has no incentive to make it a PS4 exclusive, because Shenmue 3's production is in no way tied to Shenmue 1 and 2 HD. Not at all. They're not connected. So what it would mean is that Shenmue 1 and 2 HD would likely end up on everything. It would end up on PC, it would end up on PS4, it would end up on Xbox One, maybe even Switch. It's not like it couldn't handle it, but that's a possibility. But who the fuck knows? I don't work at Sega. Am I more excited for the Switch or the Scorpio? Says XRBTO or TBO. Currently the Switch, but that's only because it's a month away. We don't know enough about the Scorpio for me to really be like, can't wait, because it's essentially just a beefier version of the Xbox One. So that'll be cool in the same sense the PS4 Pro was cool, but I was never like super stoked about the PS4. It was just an upgrade to a system I already have. Granted, Scorpio will be a bigger upgrade, but Switch is a new machine, which is cool. Am I doing anything special for when I reach 100,000 subs? I don't know. We'll see if I'm alive by then. My sub growth is not exactly stellar. Like I'm lucky if I get like 20 to 30 new subs a day. So it'll take quite some time, maybe a couple of years before actually, to be honest with you, if I hit 100,000 at all. I mean, who knows how much longer I'm going to even be doing this. I am apparently in YouTube years, I'm like 98 years old. Like I'm OG as fuck. I've been doing YouTube videos since 2009. So, did I watch Digital Foundry's video about Shenmue? Possibly. If that's a recent thing, no. Sleeper hits on the original Xbox. My all-time sleeper, this isn't an Xbox exclusive, but it was on the original Xbox. My all-time favorite sleeper hit was Second Sight. It was a game for the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube made by the guys who did Time Splitters. Free Radical, I think. I've absolutely fucking love that game. It's cheap as shit. No one ever even heard of it before. It's really, really fun. That's definitely the ultimate sleeper hit of all time, in my opinion. Opinion on Club Penguin shutting down. I'm not sure what that is, to be honest with you. Why are there more Xbox Live Gold members than PS Plus? Is that actually true? I don't know if that's true. Thalia's here. Welcome, Game Society superfan. Marius, no, I'm not watching the Super Bowl. He says, greeting from Cologne, Germany. I was in Cologne back in like 2015 for Gamescom. No, I'm not watching the Super Bowl. I don't care. I gotta entertain the rest of the people around the world because my fellow Americans are off fucking watching that shit. I don't care at all. Will Sega make a new console after Microsoft leaves the gaming world? No, they fucking won't. There's 0% possibility of that occurring. I actually did a video on why the Dreamcast 2 is like a ridiculous thing to even ask for. You can watch that if you want. It's highly illogical to think that they would ever do that. Do I want a silver play button? I have one for Game Society, actually. It's in the other room. I don't have one for my channel, obviously, because it hasn't reached it yet. I would like it, but it's not like, oh, God damn it, where is it? I need it. It'd be cool. I would probably put it up. You guys, if you can mentally imagine the way I shoot most of my videos, it would be to my right, your left of the screen, just kind of against that green wall is probably where I would put it so you guys could see it. Am I interested in getting a rare Bally Astrocade? Yeah, that'd be kind of cool, but I think they're rather expensive. It's certainly not something enough that I want that I would actually pay for, at least not to the amount that it's generally considered being worth. Canadian guy says, thanks for entertaining us. I hope you find this entertaining. I have coffee. That's exciting. It's in my Force Awakens thermos deal. And then I also have water for my Con Bravo thing. It's got lemons in it because I like lemons in water. Lemons are good. I got, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher this. Tiomir Seaman? Okay, I'm sorry. That was bad. Greetings from Serbia. Greetings from the U.S. And probably bye, I guess. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for that to sound so bad. Is PlayStation going to separate from Sony? This is a loaded question. I know, unless someone buys out the parent company, aka Sony, for the purposes of owning PlayStation, which is not unprecedented in video, maybe not in video games, but in the business industry. I'll give you a good example of something that happened here. Do you guys know Gatorade, right? Very popular drink. Do you know who owned Gatorade for the longest time? Quaker Oats, like the guys who make oatmeal and shit. And at one point, Quaker Oats wasn't doing too well, similar to how Sony's not doing too well. But Gatorade was fucking killing it. Gatorade was doing extremely well, and both Coca-Cola and Pepsi looked into it and was like, oh, fuck, I wish we could get Gatorade. But you'd have to buy out. You can't just buy Gatorade from Quaker Oats. They're not going to sell us that because that's the only thing making them any money. So long story short, what ended up happening is that Pepsi bought Quaker Oats for the sole purpose of acquiring Gatorade. And then I believe their intention at that point was to just sell off all the remaining assets to Quaker Oats, but they couldn't find enough interest in it, so they ended up just kind of keeping it alive. At least that's how it was before. I know they still own Gatorade. I assume they still own the rest of Quaker Oats. And then Coca-Cola went on and made Powerade to compete. My point is, something very similar to that could happen with Sony. Somebody could theoretically buy out Sony, probably a Japanese company, because it's very hard for non-Japanese companies to buy Japanese companies, but it's not impossible. And just for the purposes of acquiring PlayStation. Sony is in some deep shit, and it's really annoying, no offense, when you run a video game channel and you mention that, because a lot of people just can't separate the fact that Sony is a parent company and PlayStation is a division of it. If Sony goes under, no matter how well the PlayStation is doing, the PlayStation is fucked. That's how. Imagine it like there's a lake, being formed in front of like a dam, and there's it becomes a reservoir of water, and there's multiple rivers trying to run into it. Imagine if all the fucking rivers dry up and there's no water going to it, but there's one stream that's actually functional. That is not enough water to make a fucking lake there. But people just, in video games especially, seem to just ignore that and say, no, PlayStation's indestructible. It can't be defeated. It doesn't matter if the parent company runs out of money. It makes no fucking sense at all. It makes absolutely no sense. It's like if your parents had a house and they can't afford all the bills and they're starting to lose the house, but you open up a lemonade stand and go, well, all the money I'm bringing in from lemonade stand will totally offset it. And if my parents lose the house, it's okay. I'll still have the lemonade stand. It'll operate on its own. I don't need my parents. It's like a dumb as shit thing to think. But people seem to think that when it comes to PlayStation, like it's somehow magically separated. It's not. And Sony is so fucked right now as far as like management. It's unreal. Like, Michael Linton left Sony. He sees that it's sinking. He's like, I'm out. I don't want anything to do with this. And they're so unsure as to what to do with Sony Films, Columbia Pictures, that they apparently lost $1 billion last year, largely on the back of the failure of Ghostbusters. And apparently they're now considering fusing the film division with the PlayStation division, solely for the reason that the PlayStation division is making money. So they're like, maybe if we just put the film division with it, it'll make money too. Dude, you put me in charge of the Sony film productions, I'm telling you, I could turn that shit around. Like, economics, man, I'm good at that shit. I'm telling you, I could do that. But why the fuck would they ever pick me? And I'd be happy to do it. But contrary to popular belief, I don't dislike Sony. I don't hate Sony. I would actually love to see them survive. I'd love to help them survive. I would love to work in their film division and turn that motherfucker around. But, that's obviously not a job I'm ever going to have. Why hasn't anyone ever bought Sega? Not entirely true. Sega's Sammy, the corporation that they mostly made pachinko machines, they were best known, at least from video games, for making the Guilty Gear games. They bought a substantial portion of Sega back in like 2003, 2004, something like that. Like 28% of the company, which is more than any individual shareholder had. So ever since, that's why Sega's kind of gone down under, is because they've been mostly controlled by a different company. But unless you own a majority of the company, meaning 51% or more generally, not just 50.01, but whatever, it can be specific depending on the country or the company. But they have a majority control because the other, let's just say 70%, can't unify together versus the 28% that it's Sammy Holdings, if that makes any sense. Will I film porn? No, I have no intention to do that. But thank you for thinking of me. I appreciate that. Have you a VGA to HDMI box for Dreamcast? If so, any good? Yes. I made one. There's one by Atlona that I did a video on in like 2011. I mean, it was a long time ago. It remains the best VGA to HDMI box that was ever produced. Let me put it this way, though. You may not need it for much longer. That's all I'm gonna say. Have I seen the Lego Batman movie? Is that even out yet? I had no idea. Have I played Titanfall 2? No. The last thing I played that was new anyway was Ghost Recon Wildlands, which I fucking love that game. Okay. I've had an interesting relationship with Ghost Recon Wildlands. I was invited to a Ubisoft event in Paris, fucking Paris. So I got to go to Paris to go visit the Paris Ubisoft studios and see a lot of the background of the game, how they made it. I got a tour of the facility and all this stuff. And it was really fascinating. But the one thing I didn't get to do was actually play the game. They wouldn't allow that. And then I got to go to a San Francisco Ubisoft event game where I actually got to play it. And I was like, this is actually really fucking good. To me, that is like an ultimate Ubisoft love letter. That game combines like mostly Far Cry with the Tom Clancy license and kind of like the tactical operations of Rainbow Six Siege, except that it's not as required as Rainbow Six Siege was. And then it's just got some other elements from some of the other games. Ghost Recon Wildlands is fun as shit. I really liked it, and if you can still get off, if you get some, I just reading a comment about the sync being way off, which is inevitable. The mic is much better than the camera. If you can still get into the beta, which I think ends tonight, then you should. It's really, really fun. And I think it comes out next month. Why did the Ghostbusters remake tank so hard? Because Sony didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Scott, are you still here? You'd be the perfect person to talk about this. Long and the short of it, Sony as a company, as a film company, had no idea what to do with that franchise. They just did every single thing they possibly could wrong. In fact, the ultimate source for this, if you really care, go to a YouTube channel called Midnight's Edge. Really good channel. And they did a lot of basically documentaries about what fucked up Ghostbusters. And what's interesting is we know all of this to be true because of the North Korean Sony hack that happened in like 2014. So you can really, from those videos, and especially from those emails, if you ever feel like reading them or whatever, you really learn a lot about the inner workings of Sony Pictures, at least a few years ago, and how they are just fucking retarded over there. It's amazing. Which is largely why they're probably going to get fused with the PlayStation division. My favorite Dragon Ball Z game on PS2. I don't have one at all. I've never played a Dragon Ball Z game. I don't care about Dragon Ball Z. I don't care about anime, to be honest with you. And if I had done that, I probably would have either played, was it like Budokai or whatever it was on the Xbox? There's a GameCube ones, I think. How many 3DS consoles do I own? One. I have that the 2DS. I never really use it, to be honest with you. Have I ever watched Cowboy Bebop? No. Like I said, I don't care about anime. Do I think the Switch is going to be a JRPG monster? I have no reason to think that. It would be smart of Nintendo to do that. Have I played The Last Guardian? A little bit. We had to do a video for it, for Game Society, so I did. I played it a little bit. It was pretty cool. I want to play it more. Have I ever modded an original Xbox? Not on my own. I have them, but I've never done it myself. Where can I send a PS2 to be fixed? That entirely depends on where you live. I mean, it also depends on the problem with the console. In a lot of cases, it just needs to be cleaned. What is my favorite current gen console? I assume you mean either Xbox One, PS4, or Wii U, since Switch isn't here. My console of choice has been the PS4 most of this generation, even though my favorite has been the Wii U. I was kind of, to be honest with you, I was kind of switching over to Xbox One because I was so tired of not being able to use my PS4 because it's like, oh, no, you don't have any storage and we don't want to add external storage, so fuck you, you can't play your console, which I found totally unacceptable. So I was starting to switch over there, and then it's almost like Sony finally was like, oh shit, okay, fine, and they added external hard drive support, or they are going to, so we'll see how well it works. It's in beta. I haven't actually tried it yet. Vinyl records or MP3 music? Okay, so I'm not a music guy. I'm really not. Out of convenience, I tend to use MP3s. But I never thought that vinyl records had much of a point other than nostalgia for a lot of people. Then I was given a record player I would say his name, but he actually emailed me today. He's like, you don't have to keep saying my name every time you talk about it. So I will intentionally not say it this time. But I was given a record player. And I used it for a couple of like promo records I had for the Dreamcast and stuff like that. Stuff that I just wanted for collector's sake, not really to listen to. And I started listening to them, and then I started listening to some of the ones that Data Discs was putting out. And I realized, wow, this actually really sounds noticeably different. And it sounds a lot better. I was actually quite impressed. I bought the only one I went out of my way to buy strictly to hear the difference was, of all things, Transformers the movie, the 1986 animated movie. They did a 2-disc vinyl collection of that, and I bought that, and because I've heard those songs a million times digitally, so I was like, yeah, this will be a really good way to tell. And the music quality was much better. I was actually really impressed. So that, and the way to answer your question is, I acknowledge that vinyl is probably the better format, but convenience just leaves me to go with MP3s. Will PS4 and Scorpio destroy the Switch? Impossible to say. I mean, PS4 Pro is already out there, but the Switch isn't, so who knows. I think Nintendo's intention is to kind of hide in a corner like they've been doing for the last 2 generations and just hope to succeed on their own that way, as opposed to doing direct competition, even though it's weird because you are competing with them. You can't pretend you're not. What video game store would you buy retro video games from in Chicago? There's a bunch, and then there's not. And what I mean by that is there's only a couple of decent retro game stores in Chicago. But there's also a lot of generic like chain stores, things like Disc Replay, that have retro games. But you guys know whenever I do videos on like retro game stores, I find it's always like stores that specialize in that purpose. And Chicago doesn't really have that many of those. It has a place called People Play Games, which I go to from time to time. The only time I ever go there is on Fridays, but I haven't been there in a couple months because I got a buddy who works there, and he's really cool. And then there's another one called Video Games Etc. It's also called Video Games Then and Now, sometimes depending on Google or phone book. I know that's old as shit, but sometimes it depends on the search. A guy named Sean runs it. He's one of the guys who controls the Video Game Museum in Houston. And then there's some other one, Play It Retro, I think is what it's called. It's in Oak Park. But those are like the only 3 that I know. It really, in the United States, if you want retro games and you want like go to actual stores, the best area of the United States is the Seattle area. There's no competition in the United States. It's surreal how many goddamn retro game stores there are out there. The only place I've found in the world that has even anything competitive is the Southern Ontario area. The Toronto area has a shit ton of them as well. But granted, I've never been to Japan, so I have no idea. I've never been to Hong Kong, so I don't know. But I've never found anything better in Europe, and I've looked. Although I will say there is this. It's a district in Paris called Republique. I'm sure if anybody out there speaks French, you could probably correct my pronunciation. But there are a shit ton of retro game stores there. And when I got to go there back in November, I was like, Google told me there were like 2 stores. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll just pop in these 2 stores. And then I kept walking, and there was like a retro game store like every, like 20 feet. It was insane. So I went to a ton of them, and I got like shots from the exterior of them. If you go back and watch like Playload November 2016, you'll see the exterior of a bunch of these stores. And that was just the ones I could stop and actually film footage of. Like there was a ton of them. And I was really impressed by that. I've never seen it so condensed before. So in Europe, that would be, of all the places I've been anyway, the place I would recommend, the Republique district of Paris. Yes, I hear Japan has a lot of retro game stores too. I'm sure that's true. Which do I prefer, the Tomb Raider series or the Uncharted series? So here's the thing. I've played a bunch of the first 3 Uncharteds for the purposes of videos. It's different because when you do that, you can't. It's kind of like watching a movie that you have to take notes on for a book report or some shit. Granted, that's a book. You get my point. So I've played about 25% of the first 3 games, and I never played anything from the 4th. Whereas Tomb Raider stuff, the only stuff I've ever played is the older ones, like the PS1 titles and stuff. So it's not really fair. I do remember not being particularly impressed by Uncharted, which surprised me because everyone talks about it like they're the greatest games ever made, and I kept being like, okay, they're just I'm just hopping around and I'm just doing basic puzzle solving. At least that's how I interpreted it. But I'm more than willing to go in and try again. Favorite podcast to listen to? I actually don't really listen to any podcasts anymore. I'm too busy not only making mine, but I actually I get invited onto a lot of podcasts, some of which I accept and some of which I have to turn down. But I actually make more podcasts than I actually listen to any. Why do people love GoldenEye? Because it's fucking awesome as shit. Do I have any high-class CRT sets like PVM or BVM? No, I don't know. I don't have the space for it. The only CRT I own is the Divers 2000 Dreamcast, which is a shitty fucking monitor. And that's just for collector's reasons. Like if you get a frame meister and all that shit, like, you don't, I mean, I know purists will say, yes, you still need a PVM, and I don't doubt that in a lot of ways it will look better, but nah. When is the OSSC video coming out? Okay, so I think I talked about that in my podcast. The OSSC is called the Open Source Scan Converter. It's kind of like the poor man's frame meister, and that's all I'll say about it. I do have a video coming out about it. I don't remember when, but again, Patreon backers will have access to it early. Because it's already done. Do I collect trophies or achievements? I used to care a lot about Xbox achievements, like a lot. I never cared about PlayStation trophies, probably because back at that point in time, I had a shit ton of games for the Xbox 360, and I really didn't have that much for the PS3. But once we got into this generation, especially, I didn't give a fuck anymore. I'm 30 now. I don't care. I mean, they're a nice little incentive if you have a lot of more time to actually put in the game. Unfortunately, I just never do. Do I watch pro wrestling? Not anymore. I used to watch, back when it was the WWF, I used to watch it a lot in the late 90s, like 99, 2000, that era. And I loved it. I actually went to a WWF SmackDown, like live, like, you know, in person. And it was I can't imagine anybody out this remember this, but it was Mankind. Mick Foley had been banned from ever being Mankind again in the WWF. You know, he had lost a match, and that meant he could never be Mankind. So he had vanished for like 3 months. And in that particular SmackDown, like the big fight at the end after it was like wrapping up, you know how they always try to do something dramatic? In this case, what they did was they just suddenly had like music playing, and you're like, what the hell's going on? And all of a sudden you see Mick Foley come out. And he, you know, they're like, hey, you can't be here. You were banned permanently. Mankind can never return. And he was like, oh, I'm not playing Mankind anymore. And then he was, whoever that other one, not Dude Love, Captain Jack or whatever it was, where he was like fucking insane. Like, Mankind had some rules. This version of him had no rules. So it was just fun. It was fun. I was at that. Yeah, Scott the Canadian went to a WrestleMania in Toronto, apparently, when he was 18. All right, so we got a guy here. I'm gonna give him a shout out, even though this is usually a bannable offense. But I'm gonna say this because I want to give him a pro tip, and I want to give Cactus Jack. Thank you. Yes, it was Cactus Jack. I want to give there's a guy named Anime Video 322 AMV. I want to give you some pro advice here, buddy. He's saying this usual spam bullshit that everyone says, like, hey, everyone, subscribe to my channel on YouTube, please. Here's why that's a really fucking stupid thing to do. Not only do you piss off the people in the comments, not only do you irritate people like me who are making the video, but it actually pisses off YouTube's system because you are considered spam. You are hurting yourself. You are creating a situation where you are causing spam termination of your account. This means when you comment on other people's videos, it immediately goes to their spam filter, and your channel is considered spam to their algorithm. Your videos will never get views because of it, because the system goes, oh, fuck that guy. I'm not going to put his content out there. He bothers people. So pro tip, don't do that. If you want subscribers, make good content, or at least in my case, acceptable content. And if people want to find you, they'll find you. It doesn't work that way, man. You can't go around begging people to watch your shit, especially within YouTube itself. It's just not smart. As Tyler Adams says, it's literally whoring yourself out. And I'm not saying that to call you out and make you sound like an ass or anything. I'm telling you this, and to anyone who wants to get into YouTube, that's just a pro tip. Don't spam channels. Even if it doesn't bother me or bother other people, it bothers the algorithm, and they will never share your shit as a result. Did I enjoy my cameo back in the Chad Vader days? Okay, so Chad Vader, YouTube series about Darth Vader's brother working in a grocery store. Big series back in its first season. And then the third season, I'm actually in that. I was in a couple of episodes. I did crew work on a lot of episodes. I'm in the fourth season as well, and I did that too. I was a stormtrooper in the fourth season, actually. Long story short, yes, I enjoyed it. What games am I getting for the Switch at launch? I don't remember. I'd have to go check Best Buy. I have a bunch of them pre-ordered there. If you like being a whore, Joe, you go ahead and you be the best goddamn whore you can be. Have I played Overwatch? No, I was supposed to, but our stream got fucked up and I wasn't able to do it. opinion on the gamer gear. I assume you mean Game Gear. I like it, although I'm not gonna lie, its library is simply not that of what the Game Boy was. It was the better piece of tech, but it had its obvious problems. It ate batteries like candy, and the software library just wasn't quite there. What was the channel's name? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Probably the spammer guy. It was anime something or other. He's probably never heard any of this. He probably just said it and left, but that happens. Where do I see myself in 10 years? I don't know. Alive, hopefully. Let's aim for that. Manta Ray going, gee, could one of the games be Zelda? It just might be. Do I have any Dreamcast things you haven't made Keep Dreaming videos episodes on? Yes, I do. There's actually quite a few. But there was, I don't remember exactly what happened, but there was a point there where I started shifting away from that because a lot of people at the time were like, we don't just want to see Dreamcast stuff. We want to see some other stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm going to adjust the camera a little bit here. This way. A lot of people kept saying like, I want to see other things, you don't have to just do that. And then I was like, all right, fine. So I started mixing it up a bit. And I just never really got back to it. In fact, I think at this point, if I were to try and do one of those type of videos, like where it's just my hands again and that one particular angle and everything, I think a lot of people would just be like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is what you did, 6 years ago. Why are you trying this again? So there are a few items out there, but it's different. Poo Panda says, I heard you've been playing Yakuza 0. Are you going to play the other Yakuza games? Okay, first of all, Yakuza 0 is fucking great. We've been playing on my other channel, Game Society, and one of the funniest fucking shows we've ever made, and I really hope people will go watch that. Yakuza 0 4 Pimps. Please go watch that. It's fucking hysterical. I definitely want to play all the Switch or all the Yakuza games, but I kept kind of waiting for Sega to get all their ducks in a row on that. Like Yakuza 5, even it has a digital release here now, but it never got physical, so I'm kind of waiting on that. Hopefully some sort of Yakuza collection. Yakuza 1 and 2 HD I kept hoping would be brought here. They were brought out into the Wii U and the PS3 in Japan, never here. Now Yakuza 1 is being remade for the PS4 and presumably for the Western market as well, but Yakuza 2 sits in limbo, so it's just kind of like I'm not in a rush to do all that shit, and Yakuza 0 gives me a great excuse to just start now anyway. So how's the diet going? Pretty good. I lost something like 20 pounds since December, early December. I've kind of faltered a little bit lately, but I'll get back to it. Is there any chance I'll make videos about handhelds? Yeah, I assume you're talking about like the retro recap stuff. Yeah, I'll do it eventually, I'm sure. It's just a matter of time. Opinion on horror games. I like them a lot. My favorite Resident Evil game is Resident Evil 2. What was my first job? I was a cashier. Oh, no, wait, that's not even true. When I was a kid, this may not count. When I was a kid, I used to collect a lot of basketball cards, partially hence this whole thing. And I was really into that shit. And there was a store in my town that they did two things. This is going to sound like an odd combination of things. But they would sell lots of sports memorabilia, including cards. And at the same time, they were also a professional framing service. So, like, ironically, I'd never learned that part of it. But they, at one point, like, I would go in there so damn frequently. I knew a lot about the cards, and obviously I was good with money even as a kid. So they were like, at one point they just kind of offered me, they're like, look, we can't pay anything, but if you want to work like the register for sports cards stuff, and so we can focus more on this stuff, you can do that. They checked with my mother and everything. She was fine with it. And so they would just kind of pay me in basketball cards and shit. If that counts, then that was my first job. And I think I was like 10 or 12, something like that. Whereas my first, if you want to call it like a paid job, like a real, like where I filed taxes and everything on it, that would have been when I was a cashier at a grocery store in high school for 1 year. That was an interesting job because it was the only grocery store on the planet, maybe not literally, but pretty much, where they didn't bother with the whole concept of barcodes and scanners yet. That was like, no, fuck that. So like every single item in the store would have a code number you'd have to remember. So if a person had a bunch of bananas, for example, you don't it doesn't even like I'm sure you've seen it. You've been to grocery stores and there's like little stickers on there and they have code numbers. Those aren't even the right fucking code numbers for this store. You would go in, you have to put down, be like, okay, banana. The sticker says it's 4011. Fuck that. Our system's different. This banana is 28. That's the code number. So every item had that, even if it was something that was like cottage cheese and it was like in a container and it had a barcode, didn't matter. It had its own system and you had to memorize all of it. It was literally like learning another language. So I did that for a year. I was actually pretty good at it because I've got partially like a Rain Man thing. Autism. No, not really. But no, I was actually, I'm really good with numbers and memory and stuff. And so I was actually rather good at that. So there you go. Am I on the south side of Chicago? Technically, yes, because of where the south and north technically split. How do I feel about Mankind Divided microtransactions in a single player full price game? I have no idea what you're referring to. Is that, I think that's Deus Ex, right? I didn't even know that was a thing. So that if that's true, fuck that. That sucks. Best video game experience on the Wii U. I think my favorite game on there was either New Super Mario Brothers U. God, I don't remember. Like almost everything Nintendo put out was gold for that system. That's the one that comes to mind. I spent most of my time playing it a couple of years ago, though. Is the PS4 still worth buying today? I'd say yes, but that's entirely up to what kind of gamer you are. Is it worth upgrading the PS4 Pro or not? Or should I wait, was the question. I bought it for tech reasons and partially to put it on the channel, you know, stuff like that. I'm not the I'm not the best person to ask for that because I would have bought it anyway. It depends on your budget. It depends on, you know, what your setup is, all that kind of shit. So I can't really answer that. What is the best console for music CDs? Anything other than the PS4. Like, it's the only, as far as, off the top of my head, it's the only, no, I guess the Wii and the Wii U and the GameCube do not read music CDs. So anything else, fine. The Xbox One does it pretty well. In fact, the Xbox One probably does it really well because it also downloads metadata for all the music CDs. So it has, like, a list of tracks and stuff. I always thought the 360 did it really well. But the all-time best might be the original Xbox for the sole reason that it could rip music CDs to its hard drive, and then you could use that data in your games. So a very typical example of this would be you'd be playing Grand Theft Auto 3 or Vice City or whatever, and there'd be a custom radio station when you're in the car, and it would literally just be the hard drive wherever you had ripped your own music to. I always thought that was cool as shit, so that would be my answer. Hey Adam, what do you think about JRPG coming to Steam? Have you tried it? I don't even play on PC, dude. I'm not the right person to ask. And I also don't play JRPGs. Like, you really, I think you came to the wrong chat, buddy. But thank you for being here. No, I mean, guess it's cool if people, you know, people love Steam, people love PC gaming, people love JRPGs. Seems like a logical combination. Would I recommend Yakuza 0? Hell yes, I would. Yes, definitely. Do I have a complete Sega Saturn collection? Would you do more videos on your Saturn? I do not. I kind of gave up on it because it's just too hard to find all that shit now. And of course, the Japanese stuff is an insurmountable Herculean task. I mean, we're talking literally thousands of. Well, okay, it's like 1,700 games that came out in Japan that Europe and North America never saw. Fuck that noise. The thing I'm closest to is the European set. I'm looking at it. I have 31 of the 32 exclusives. The only one missing would be Mega Man X3. And then the North American stuff, I'd say I have like 60-70%, something like that. It's harder because you pretty much have to resort to eBay now, and that kind of takes a lot of the fun out of it. Ever consider visiting Eastern Europe? I did, very briefly. I was in Slovakia and I was in Hungary back in 2015. Very briefly. I was in Austria with my buddy Ronald and my girlfriend, and we went over the border because we were in Vienna, and the Slovakia border is right there, and so is the Hungarian border. So we thought, fuck it, let's just cross over and just be in Slovakia and be in Hungary for a while. And that's exactly what we did. Hungary was pretty cool. We didn't really do much in either country. We just kind of went shopping just to see shit. But Hungary was cool just because of the fact that of the currency they use, and quite frankly, if I'm honest here, how cheap everything is. I think I told this story like 2 years ago, but I'll tell it again real quick. They have a currency called the forint as opposed to using the euro or something like that. And the inflation on it is insane. And when you compare it to the value of the US dollar, it's unreal. So what that basically meant was that everything when you did the exchange was super, super fucking cheap. My girlfriend bought a fucking set of luggage, like a whole new set of luggage. And I filled up an entire cart full of groceries. And at the end of this, it was the equivalent of maybe $30, $40, something like that. It was nothing. My favorite thing we bought, and I don't mean favorite, the item itself actually wasn't that great, but it was the amount of value. We bought this like 2-liter thing of orange juice. Okay, 2-liter thing of orange juice. It cost the equivalent of 3/5 of a penny. That's the kind of shit I'm talking about. Do you go to arcades, Adam? Do you like them? Don't be an ass. Arcades are perfectly fine. I don't really go to them anymore. Arcades are not that common in the U.S. anymore. I used to go to them a lot more when I was a kid. There were more of them, but there's none in my immediate area. But yeah, no, I like the last one I went to was in Atlanta back in January. I was down there for the High Res Expo for the Smite and Paladins thing, and afterwards there was this big party thing at a place called After Party or something like that. And it was a big open arcade deal. That was actually a lot of fun. Am I planning on visiting any more places in Canada? This is a very apt question. And the reason for that is that I think it was yesterday or the day before, finalized something. I will be going to Winnipeg in May for a convention called FanQuest. So if you're anywhere near Winnipeg, you ever want to meet me or anything, I will be at a convention called FanQuest. Come on out. Currently, that's my only plan to attend Canada at this point this year, although that's very subject to change. I went to Con Bravo 2016, which is in Hamilton, just around Toronto, a little south of it, and I might be going back this year. They haven't decided yet if they are what guests they're going after yet. So we'll see. Last year they said they want me back, but that could have just been Canadian politeness. I mean, who knows? What did I do this weekend? Well, this morning I did a Ghost Recon Wildlands stream. Yesterday I was up in Madison, Wisconsin doing beer and board games on a live stream. Friday, what the hell did I do Friday? More work, I'm sure. I honestly don't even remember. Dr. 345678 has a good point. Galloping Ghost Arcade in Brookfield, Illinois is now the biggest arcade in America. $20 at the door, play all you want. That's actually not that far from me, and I've never been there. Galloping Ghost is supposed to be fucking great, and I really should go, but I never have the proper excuse to go. They have prototype arcade machines, like stuff literally you can't play anywhere else in the world. There's a Beavis and Butthead game that they are the only people on the planet that have it. They have the only known copy of Primal Rage 2, and you can play it. It's open to the public to play. But personally, I've never done it. I hear it's absolutely fantastic. Scott the Canadian, who I don't know if he's still in here, he and I almost went, but then just time ran out. If he comes back down to Chicago, maybe we'll go. Do I know PaRappa the rapper? I've never met him. He doesn't return my calls. I know of him because I've tried to call him. Which one is better, Sega or Nintendo? In what context? It's such a giant fucking question. Saga Sage of Time. It's weird. You got the same icon as my buddy Shenmue, but you're not him as far as I can tell. Have you played Banjo-Kazooie or Banjo-Tooie on N64 or Nuts and Bolts? I played a little bit of Nuts and Bolts. Wasn't a big fan. I know that wasn't a smart place to start. But yeah, I really want to play the other two, and then I kept waiting for Rare Replay. And then Rare Replay came and I never ended up getting around to it. Dude, there are so many fucking games that I need to play, that I want to play. I never have time to play. Like, I could have done that right now. Today is a very weird case where I got all my shit done early and I had time to do something because everyone else I work with is off busy watching the Super Bowl. So I could have done that. But instead I chose to talk to you guys because I wanted to do that. So pick and choose. Thoughts on the Star Wars Episode 8 name reveal? The Last Jedi? Yeah, it's fine. We don't have enough information yet. The thing that everyone's afraid of, it's like, oh no, it means that Luke's dead or Rey dies or something like that. Not necessarily. Jedi is a plural term and singular, like sheep. I mean, literally, Return of the Jedi, which at one point was called Revenge of the Jedi, singular and plural. Oh, Scott's bailing. Later, Scott. So we'll see. I'm curious. I'm actually more interested in what they're going to do handling the unfortunate Carrie Fisher situation. I know she finished all of her production for that movie, but how does that affect the future? We'll have to see. I don't envy whoever the people are over at Disney that have to figure that out. Why am I recording in 4x3 to make it work? This webcam is rather old, but it's much better than the fucking Xbox Live Vision camera I was using for a while. I don't really bother upgrading a lot of my tech because it's just, you don't need, what are you going to look at? It's a fucking guy sweating. He's got a headset on. There's a deformed Derrick Rose jersey, got a hoodie. What do you want to see? Like, it's not interesting enough. At least I got a good mic for this purpose, unlike the main videos, as you guys know. Problem with the main videos, all right, because I get audio complaints all the time on there, and I don't blame you. But the problem with that is the camera I use doesn't even allow for separate audio sources. So, like, even if I had an appropriate mic, which this one is not, I couldn't actually use it. I'd have to like record it separately and then fucking put it together in post-production. It would just be a lot of fucking work and just really hard to do on top of being expensive. So in order to make that work, I would have to have a whole new camera and a top of new audio equipment, which is a Patreon goal. But, you know, I don't expect anyone to do that, and it's whatever. Do I prefer the Wii U or the Sega Saturn? I've had more fun on the Wii U, if I'm brutally honest. I think the Sega Saturn will largely be more respected over the course of time. But personally, I've had more fun on the Wii U. What's my favorite Nintendo console? The Super Nintendo. Where's Chip? At his home? Oh my! You know what's hilarious about it? He literally just messaged me right now. All right, you're gonna hear my old ass keyboard. I'm gonna type something. I have this badass like PS2 interface. I don't mean PlayStation 2. I mean PS2. It's an old like pre-USB keyboard. I'm asking him right now if he wants to join this live stream. We will see. I could potentially call him up and he could join us. Let's find out. So I messaged him. Oh, Chip's in there now. All right, Chip, you're in here. Do you want to join this stream? He says he'll be home in 10 minutes. All right, Chip, I'm assuming you can hear me because I don't really want to type on this. If you're gonna be home in 10 minutes, yeah, come on, get home and hit me up on Skype, and we will make this happen. Hopefully, it'll let me do that mid-stream, but we'll see. Do you guys want Chip on here? Of course, you want Chip on here. Everybody loves Chip. It's basically the Chip show when you think about it. I'm gonna tell him that's fine, just in case he's not actually listening. I thought he was, because I saw him in the commentary or the comments for a second there. In the meantime, while we wait for Chip, I can't hold up the keyboard. The positioning is too awkward. If I were to try and do that, everything would just kind of fall apart. But I'll take a photo or something. I'll put a photo of it on my Instagram. How about that? I got an Instagram. You can follow it. It's in the description. Along with all the other bullshit, you know, the Facebook fan page and Twitter and the Patreon, etc. Yeah, I'll just remind me. I'll put a picture of it. I've actually got two of them. Okay, so my oldest computer ever, the first one I ever got, my mom got us a PC back in like 1992, like right after the Gulf War. Okay, and I would have been like 6, and she needed it so that her company was forcing everyone to have PCs so that they could work at home. What a magical concept. Work at home. How does one even do such a thing? When really you couldn't. It was incredibly limited. But she had this computer. And that actually, by the way, I did play a lot of PC games back then on those big ass floppy disks. Though the one that you're always missing, you know, if you ever hook up your computer and you look at your hard drives and everything, and you see like, oh, the main drive's the C drive, and then there's the E. You ever wonder what happened to A and B? A was the little floppy drives that no longer service. B is the one really nobody knows anything about. B was the big ass floppy drives. So back in the day, we had played a lot of games on there. There was a lot of cool ones we played. the point of this story is that from all the components that were that computer, obviously most of them ended up in a landfill somewhere, but the one thing I've still got is the keyboard that it came with. It predates the Windows key. It's not this particular one, it's in the other room. The reason I use this one, I've got two of these tank keyboards, this one's slightly newer, is because it has a Windows key. The other one does not. But it's the same type of keyboard they use for sound effects because it's so good at sounding like a damn keyboard. I'm sorry, there's so many questions that everybody's flying. If I don't answer your question, it's nothing against you, it's just there's so many things, and you guys know me, I tend to just go off and on and on and on. And even Austin Ellis calls it out. Wow, mega tangent he went on there. Yeah, I tend to do that. Arturo Rosales. I apologize if I got that wrong. I still watch YouTube video that you and Review Tech USA did 2 years ago, and everything you guys said about Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, and about video games all becoming digital is all true. What can I say? It's video games, like the industry is not that hard to predict in certain ways. It's hard to predict what will necessarily catch on, but it's not hard to predict. Really, this is what I always tell people. If you understand economics, you'll almost always be right about everything because that's what everybody cares about. But economics is a hard thing to grasp. But if you essentially follow the money, you can always predict the most logical outcome of what corporations will do. So that helps in those type of things, which is why, I believe if you go back, the most popular video I ever made is a video called Why Isn't Nintendo Hardware Powerful, which is a video that a lot of people misunderstood. It's fine. I didn't present it as well as I could have, including Rich. He actually made a video calling me out as being wrong, which fine. It's all you. You do what you got to do. But anyway, at the end of that video, I made a very bold prediction saying I think that Nintendo will likely launch a console in either really late 2016 or 2017. So it's not that hard to predict how this shit's going to go. I will admit, and even though I was saying for a long time, like, Nintendo, I honestly believed whatever Nintendo's replacement was going to be would be November 2016. I made that judgment on the basis that you don't traditionally launch consoles outside of that time frame. So why they chose March is possibly just to not have as much competition, or because they felt they needed it, probably, in all honesty, to complete Zelda. I think the hardware is probably set, but I think the problem was that Zelda wasn't ready, and they didn't want to make a mistake and launch. Could you imagine if the Switch launched without Breath of the Wild? What the hell would that console launch be like? Nobody's buying that shit for Just Dance 2017. That's all I'm saying. So I imagine that was part of it. Chip says, okay, adventure. I'm not sure what that means, but hopefully, Chip, you're almost home. Will consoles die? Will GameStop be the next Blockbuster? That sounds like, I think you actually just watched Rich's video on that, didn't you? Yeah, GameStop's right fucked. I've been boycotting GameStop for years. And you guys have always heard me say it if you've been watching me for a long time. A lot of videos I'll be like, fuck GameStop. I don't like GameStop. I never go to GameStop. It's always the worst thing ever. And people ask me to make like a long video just explaining why I hate them so much. Do I even need to? Does this recent series of events with GameStop not prove exactly what I'm always talking about? They are a horrible company. I can't believe anyone buys shit from them. Like, literally, GameStop's slogan should be where people who don't know anything about video games go to buy video games. That's what that place should be fucking called. It's a horrible, horrible store. Yeah, fuck that stupid fucking place. And no, I never worked there or anything. It's like literally every experience I've ever had at a GameStop was brutally awful, and I could not wait to get the hell out of there. Everyone wants 1, 2, 3 switch. I'm pretty sure it's just 1, 2 switch, sir. Just 1, 2. There's no 3. Because you can't have 3 players. Can you even have more than 2 players on the Switch? Does anyone know that? Yeah, we got a lot of people still asking why I hate GameStop. I think I just kind of told you. But granted, you probably haven't caught up yet. Who am I subscribed to? I actually don't watch that many channels, to be honest with you. I have like 58 or 60 subscriptions. Very few of which I actually watch on any kind of regular basis. And ironically, most of the ones I watch are not video game related. Like Mr. Sunday Movies, I watch him a lot for like movie news, Midnight's Edge, which I mentioned earlier, stuff like that. That's probably, you guys probably always wondered like why I don't really play video games on this channel. I'm more into economics and business and stuff like that, which is why I watch a lot of things like that, which is why that's generally when it comes to video games what I'm talking about. I like history. I like economics. I love games. I've just never been good at reviewing them. I'm not confident in my ability to be like, this game is good because X, Y, and Z, because I always just kind of want to talk about it and move on. Whereas like everything else, I love to just dissect the shit out of. I know it's a weird quirk, but that's how I feel about myself. And I know you guys said I should be more confident about that in when I did the Wii U 4 video, PS3 and Xbox One 3 years video. Everybody's like, why'd you cut the games out? You should have talked about them maybe next year. I don't know. Or later this year. Am I excited about Crash Bandicoot? Yes, I think that'd be pretty cool. I think I pre-ordered that over at Best Buy. Here's the thing. I pre-ordered a lot of stuff over at Best Buy as Mangia1432 says, Adam, I feel like you're the only one who mentions Best Buy Gamers Club. I did it because of that, and because of the whole, I think, if you guys watch Playload, you know what I'm talking about. There was this thing where if you paid with a Visa, every time you spent $100, you'd automatically get 25 off, so your order is 75. And that's after you've already taken off discounts of 20% from each game and all this shit. So you're saving a lot of money. Like even the $60 games after tax are only like $35. It was huge. So, and when you're pre-ordering stuff, you don't have to pay for it on the spot. So, but you get to keep it for the cheaper price. So yeah. And I'm probably the reason that I am probably like one of the only people that ever talks about Best Buy's Gamer Club Unlocked is twofold. One, I talk about picking up stuff probably way more than I would think most gaming YouTubers do. Again, largely because I don't really show or play games on the channel itself. I tend to review a lot of hardware. I have discussions, and I like to talk about things to buy or things to check out. And I like to talk about deals, you know, economics, that type of thing. But the other part of it is you can't avoid, like if I say, hey guys, go to Best Buy for this, people inherently assume, oh, Best Buy's paying him because they would pay him to talk about it. Who the fuck would pay me to talk about that? Think about the way I talk to you. I have a filthy mouth. No one's paying me to do anything for them. But yeah, that's partially why I think a lot of people don't do it. It's kind of like when you do Audible ads. Those are ads, but Best Buy's not going after people for ads. They don't care about that. But everyone on the internet kind of inherently has a jaded opinion of that type of thing. So even when you're legitimately trying to help people, like, guys, look, there's this deal over here. Fuck you, you were paid. So that's why I think a lot of people don't do it. Personally, I don't care. You think I'm bribed? Fine. Think I'm bribed. I don't give a shit. I'll just go ahead and have the bargains. It's fine with me. And if anything switches, that's the other thing. I switch on a dime. If somebody's offering me a better deal, but Amazon's like, well, we're going to do this now. Okay. One thing I'll give total credit to Amazon for, they tried to match that whole 20% off deal. They just don't do it as well because they only apply it to pre-orders and then like for the first week after it's out. But the thing they do really well is they carry a lot of games for especially the Xbox One and a lot for the PS4 that Best Buy never has any interest in carrying. The problem with that though is, like I said, a week after it comes out, they don't do the 20% thing off anymore. So you kind of have to really be Johnny on the spot to know about it. And then there aren't that many PS4 games that I've really, or Xbox One games where I've really felt it was necessary to do that. Do I plan on doing another game room tour? When did I ever do one in the first place, dude? I don't do game room tours. The reason for that is in my opinion, that's the kiss of death for any retro gaming channel. That is not a smart move. It blows your whole wad right at the beginning. It gives you nowhere to go, and it becomes out of date. Like, you see Playload every month. I get new shit all the time. And what am I supposed to do? Do like the same tour plus a few games every couple of months? Fuck that. No, what I've been saying for the longest time is if I do a game room tour, it will be, you know, probably, on all honesty, it would be my last video. But I don't intend to quit anytime soon. What type of workout and diet do you do? I don't fucking work out. Look at me, dude. Diet, I do that, but that's kind of a recent thing. As for the diet, no, I've just been eating more like vegetables and stuff, and just kind of watching what I eat. Less junk food, less, you know, carb heavy things, stuff like that. In general, just taking better care of myself as far as food goes. You did something like 1 year ago. No, I didn't. The closest thing that I ever did was one of the Dreamcast birthdays, I did my whole Dreamcast collection, but that's a little different because that collection was essentially complete. I mean, all the original stuff is there. The only stuff that wasn't is the new indie titles that have come since. And if I'm honest, I do kind of regret making that video, but I had promised it in the early years, so I lived up to the promise. But since that video, something like 10 maybe independent games have come out, so it's not that out of date. Why am I so obese? Food. Opinion on game theory. I like MatPat, I assume you're talking about. I met him once and didn't even realize it was him. I was at PAX Prime, I want to say 2014, and I walked away from the convention center down to a grocery store called Uwaji Maya's. There's like a little bookstore in there. And he was in front of me, although I didn't know it was him. And his lady friend was with him. And the girl behind the counter started freaking out, like, oh my God, MatPat, oh my God, oh my God. You know, I was like, I don't know who this person is. Like, I didn't know, I'd never even heard of MatPat at that point. And so they took a bunch of photos and stuff. And then later, I was like, yeah, this girl's freaking out about some guy named MatPat. And my buddy's like, you met MatPat? Like, I'm like, yeah, who's that? And then they showed me his game theory. I was like, fuck, he was right there. I've met a surprisingly large amount of the YouTubers over the years. I've met the Angry Video Game Nerd. I've met Gaming Historian. Obviously, I'm buddies with a lot of them. You know, like I know Rich from Review Tech USA. I know Shane, obviously, Rerez. I've met Angry Joe a couple of times. There's a bunch that I know. I just got Chip is home, says he needs 5 minutes, and he'll join us on this call unless all hell breaks loose and it totally fails. We'll see. Let me just tell him okay. How are you guys enjoying the show? You having a good time? You enjoying this? Well, there's 260 of you watching. I appreciate that. Would you guys do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button? I hate asking you to do it, but if you don't mind, can you hit that shit? Yeah, Angry Video Game Nerd James Rolfe is a cool guy. He'll be at Too Many Games in Philly, I assume, because I believe he lives in Philly, so it'd be unlikely that he wouldn't go. I believe I will be at that convention as well. I'm not crystal clear on what my convention schedule is like this year. The only ones I know for sure is Winnipeg for FanQuest, going there at the end of May. I think it's like 99% probable I'll be at Too Many Games in Philadelphia, I believe at the end of June. I know I'll be at the Missouri Game Con in St. Louis. I think that's the end of August. The other ones that I think are tentative, but I don't know. AVGC in New Jersey in September, Con Bravo in Hamilton in July. But those two I'm much less sure about. The only two that are completely locked down are the FanQuest in Winnipeg and Missouri Game Con in St. Louis. Okay, good. People are enjoying it, or at least one person's enjoying it. Thank you for hitting the like button, guys. Much appreciated. Why did the head of Sega say Saturn is not our future? You're talking about Bernie Stolar. Because Bernie Stolar had no understanding of economics, or because here's the funny thing about Bernie Stolar. This is total conspiracy, put on your like tinfoil hat theory moment. So a lot of CEOs get golden parachutes regardless. What that essentially means is when they work at a company, they're guaranteed a certain amount of money regardless of how well they do. And so in the event that they get fired, they're also given some big bonus. That's why you always hear people get pissed off when companies give bonuses to these CEOs when they fuck up. It's called a golden parachute. In the case of Bernie Stolar, I know he got one, and his previous job before running Saturn, he ran PlayStation. What if he had some loyalties to that company and he decided, I'll bomb the competition? I don't think that actually happened. I think he was just not a smart guy. All right, Chip says he's ready. I'm going to try calling him. We'll see how this works. So I'm literally calling him right now. We'll see if he... All right, hey, Chip, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, can you guys hear Chip? Chip, keep talking.
So, yeah, I am here now. I just got done with agility training for my dog. That was fun.
All right, let's wait and see if... Oh, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to wait and see if they can confirm that they hear you. Because if not, then we're just doing a big silent stream for a minute. So
yeah,
it should work. It should work. There's no reason it shouldn't.
I'm going to watch your live stream here.
Hey, James Rainier's here. What's up, man? We were literally just talking about all the conventions out east. James, are you still up in Toronto right now? Yep, people can hear you. They hear you.
Cool.
All right. So, yeah, if you guys don't know, this is Chip. He's on my podcast with me. As mentioned before, you can get access to the podcast on Patreon. You can also get early access to videos now. That's a new feature. So there you go. Chip, for those who don't know, why don't you talk a bit about yourself and what'd you do today, man?
Let's see. So, I'm a guy that works at IBM doing a bunch of prototype software, and also going to grad school at Georgia Tech online. So that's eating up time. And let's see, what else do? I do some art, take some art classes. That's fun, and a variety of other stuff. What did I do today? What did I do today? I went to agility training with my dog. What else did I do? Oh, I was working on grad school. So it's interesting. I'm in a course called computational photography, and essentially what you do is you take pictures with a camera. It could be your cell phone, could be something else. I have a Canon T3i Rebel that I use for photography, and basically use different computery techniques to do post-processing. So what I did today is I went through, took a bunch of pictures of nature, focusing different parts of nature. Like if you had say 8 different bushes and you're focusing on different ones in your shots, you can use something called epsilon computational photography. I'm trying to remember the exact. I think it's called focal stack photography, where basically you stack up these different images that have different parts in focus, and it makes them all in focus, and it looks pretty cool. So yeah, that's
there
what I've
you
done
go. Or was there more to it?
I mean, there's a lot of science and math, well, mostly math behind it, but that's basically all I did.
Right on, man. Well, welcome. I'm glad to have you here, Chip.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we'll just keep going with more comments, questions, all that fun stuff.
Hey, what is this? You just told me to join you. I don't actually know what you're doing.
I'm just doing a live Q&A. Do you want to leave?
Okay.
You don't have to stay.
Okay, that works.
All right, bye, Chip. Are you really leaving?
No.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Welcome back.
Hey, how's it going?
No. All right, so we'll just do some more questions here. If you guys have Chip-specific questions, some people are saying you're too loud. You don't sound too loud to me.
Oh, well, maybe I should stop yelling.
It doesn't. You don't really seem like a yeller. All right, we do have a question from you, Drud, 1995. Can you get me an internship with IBM, Chip?
No.
All right. Is it true IBM received its first microchips from the Roswell spacecraft?
Received or as in produced for the spacecraft?
He says received.
I doubt we took them from a spacecraft.
There you
I'm
go.
pretty sure we made chips. We actually still did. I think, what was it? We made that cell processor that was in the PS3?
Oh, you're being serious now, because he's talking about aliens.
Oh, okay. I missed it.
Did you guys make the cell processor?
Yeah, IBM, I don't know if we manufactured it, but we're the ones that designed it, which is why it was so complicated and they could only use 1 out of the 8 cores or something.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, I know.
People want to know if you can sing.
Can I sing? No.
Other people are saying you're too quiet and that you should get closer to the mic.
Oh, dear. I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do I own any VR equipment? I actually do not. I have several coworkers that are doing investigations into virtual and augmented reality for enterprise in terms of business value, applicability, what you could do with it, like who the consumer basis would be for that, or market base. This is enterprise, not your everyday consumer focus, right? So they've actually ruled out most of VR. More AR has potential to do things such as, I don't know, like for example, instead of having to stare at a screen at your desk, you could have, like they had with the Google Glass you could have like a little screen that follows you around that you can watch videos on, right? Or for example, when Adam and I are talking together, instead of me having to look at a screen that's delayed of Adam's beautiful beard, I could actually look around and have him look at me as well, right? But I don't own any myself. Several of my friends own the HTC Vive, which I've heard is, from their opinion, the best of the VR available. In the sense that it has those things, I guess motion controls you can use with your hands to get a little bit more accuracy. And I want to get the Vive anyway, to try out Tabletop Simulator, with that, because that might be easier to play Tabletop Simulator. But I don't know. And as I stop and I'm looking over, I see you rubbing your beard.
Well, you were talking. Well, if you catch up with that in the stream, that's when you're talking about how glorious my beard is. So I literally started doing it at that point.
Yeah.
For them, they understood. How do I manage to go to so many cons and still keep my job? It's part of my job. What do you think?
It's the perk of his job. He gets to go to conferences. I actually pay for my conferences because they won't pay for mine.
Are you willing to talk about that?
Not really. No.
Okay, then we won't go any further.
Yeah, don't show on that one.
I won't say anything. Do you ever have dreams about being in stores and finding rare items? You mean like literally? Do I sleep and wake up and be like, oh, I could have found Panzer Dragoon in my sleep? No, fuck. No, that doesn't happen to me.
Happens to Adam every time. Don't listen to him.
No, those are wet dreams.
What is your favorite video game or game console? He's asking me, but have you answered this yet?
I've done that many times. I think everybody knows my favorite game and my favorite game console.
Okay. Let's see. Favorite game? I tend to bounce around. I think in terms of a series that I like the Suikoden series a lot. I grew up with the first one. It was for the PlayStation. In fact, I think PlayStation of the home consoles was my favorite, or still is my favorite, because of all of the RPGs I actually enjoyed. You know, they had the remake from the Super Nintendo of Ogre Battle March of the Black Queen, which is pretty fun. They have Suikoden series, the first two on there. They had, of course, a bunch of the Final Fantasy stuff. They had Vagrant Stories, or is it Vagrant Stories? I always forget.
I think it's Vagrant.
Vagrant Stories. They had quite a few other RPGs. They had Final Fantasy Tactics. They had, I think they had a Tactics Ogre game on there as well. Portable-wise, Game Boy Advance is definitely my favorite for a long time, just because of all the RPGs that are on there. I was a pretty big RPG fan. To me, it was like an interactive book. But unfortunately, like Adam doesn't have time to play video games for fun that often. I don't really have time to get involved with games that much. I did beat Advance Wars, the first one, which actually I'd never played. I got in the second one a long time ago. And that's pretty fun, but that's one that you can basically stop at any point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess portable-wise, Game Boy Advance, console-wise is the PlayStation, although I grew up with the Super Nintendo, and I really enjoyed Chrono Trigger on that. But other than that one, there aren't too many games, although the original Star Fox is pretty fun as well. Have you played that one, Adam?
Yeah, but not for a long time. Also, I want to address something real quick. Mecha Convoy is the guy who asked about if I dream of it. He says, well, sorry, I didn't know anything. I wasn't making fun of you, dude. I was just being silly, man. Don't feel discouraged. You feel free to ask whatever you want to ask.
Let's see. I'm looking through. Someone asked me about, is IBM angry about something about Windows? There's an interesting story about how actually the whole MS-DOS was actually contracted work, I believe, from IBM. They outsourced the operating system to Microsoft at the time, and it basically became a runaway seller, and Microsoft took over that part, right? And then, of course, you had the whole competition, which no one probably remembers, between you had Windows and you had OS2. There's like OS and like a / and a 2, which was IBM's operating system. And they pushed that quite a while, and then they dropped it when IBM almost broke up. And it stayed around on ATMs for a long time, but I think they finally moved away from that as well. So that was interesting. But there you go. Let's see.
Why do people have a low interest in Sega? Probably because they're not relevant anymore.
Someone keeps asking me why I yell into the mic. Am I yelling in the mic?
I don't think so.
I hope not.
Sounds normal to me.
Someone just mentioned Brave Fencer Musashi. Yeah, I love that game. I kept renting it from Movie Gallery when they had video games. That was fun. Did you ever rent video games, Adam?
Of course.
What rental stores did you have?
Mostly we went to Blockbuster back when they were still a thing.
Blockbuster was the big one. Yeah, we had Blockbuster and Movie Gallery. And we had one Hollywood Video.
Oh yeah, I did some shit at Hollywood Video too, but they were only around for like a year and a half. They were not around long.
Really? Maybe in Chicago. I mean, I feel like they had been around in Alabama anyway for several years before they disappeared.
I couldn't. The one we only had one near me, and it didn't last very long.
Huh. Did you ever get a chance to buy some of the games when they started selling their stock?
I think I tried that, but I don't remember getting too much from them.
I remember I got quite a few steals. I got a bunch of the rare JRPGs I own now are from back then.
Nice.
Like I got Threads of Fate, and what is that? I can never pronounce it. Rhapsodia, something like that. It's this weird
Rhapsody.
Rhapsody. There we go. It was like some weird tactical JRPG where you're basically playing as a female character, which is unusual, especially for Japan. And you basically are trying to go rescue the prince that was turned into stone. But it's like a turn-based tactical RPG. But it's weird because they remade that game and they turned it into like one of those frontal-facing RPGs when they remade it on the 3DS, DS. I can't remember when they remade that. But it was weird because on the back of that one, like a lot of times in the older games, they try to do this whole marketing spiel and give you a couple of screenshots or something on the back of the cases. This one was basically just like, no, we're not gonna advertise that. We're gonna advertise our soundtrack and how we have a great song about pancakes, and that's the whole back was talking about. It was very odd.
All right then.
Yeah, I'm hungry for pancakes.
Will the Sega Genesis modem work with the internet today? If you're talking about the Sega channel, that hasn't worked in like 20 plus years. If you're talking about the X band, I don't know. I think if that did peer-to-peer, it would still work. I know that the Sega Saturn Netlink still works because of that, because it's peer-to-peer. Adam, would you play a PC game from an independent developer if they ask you to, and they can't put it on any other platform? That happens all the fucking time. No.
So someone's asking me, old IBM ThinkPad or new IBM Lenovo ThinkPad. It's not really IBM anymore. It's Lenovo's ThinkPad, and I think that they have like a new brand now. I used to say, go with the new Lenovo stuff, but they've started cutting some corners, or at least in my opinion, they have. Personal opinion, and I run a lot of Linux operating systems, specifically Arch Linux, and you definitely can feel the pain when they start cutting corners, because usually that's when you start to have a fight with the hardware they put in it. So, but I mean, it depends on what you want to do. I think they have some pretty good like netbooks and stuff, Lenovo wise, and I think the Carbon X1 is pretty good or something. But I've not owned a ThinkPad personally. I've only had like some crappy laptops, like a Fujitsu that cost way too much money, and some other stuff.
Can we do a dildo giveaway? Only if his mother hooks us up. Not not Chip's mother, the guy who said it.
Wow.
How successful would Shenmue 3 need to be to allow Yu Suzuki to finish the complete story? Do you think it will end or be in the same situation, et cetera, et cetera? Yeah, that's a tough one. Basically, Yu Suzuki made it clear he would like to do 5 games. He needs to do at least 4, which the 4th one entirely depends on the success of the 3rd. I don't know. I have no idea what their ballpark figure is. I hope it can do well enough. That's my concern is that most of the people who are going to buy it have already funded it and have already paid for it. So it's going to entirely depend on new people to pick it up. So that's terrifying.
Are you saying 4 games in total, or are you saying 4 new games, as in like
no.
Shenmue 3, 4, 5, 6?
They would, as in a total of 5 would be ideal, including the 2 that already exist plus the 3rd.
Okay.
4 is minimum, is what he said.
Okay,
that's
so
with him cutting out a lot of things he doesn't want to cut out.
Right.
So that would require a Shenmue 4 or a Shenmue 5.
Got it. Okay, so at least one more than the one we're already getting.
Yes.
To close it out, which, like you said, it's up in the air.
When is PS4 external storage coming? Probably a couple months. We're not entirely sure. It's with the 4.50 update, which is in beta. I'm not part of that program, so I don't know, but most sources say within a couple of months. It looks like it's going to be a big update because it seems to include a lot of shit. Rodrigo Devitt says, what are your thoughts on having subscribers from so many different countries and languages? Greeting from Brazil. I think it's cool as shit. And I'm glad you all speak English because I don't speak anything else.
Hey, you're cool if you're from Brazil.
I
love people from Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil's cool.
One of my close friends just got married to a girl in Brazil.
Nice.
And it's interesting because she wants to come back to the U.S. I have no idea what's going to happen with all the weird policies we're getting implemented. I guess stay out of the politics though. But she's actually finishing her education, so she has one more year in Brazil, and then she can go over, which is interesting. Let's see. So Timothy Joshua asks, do you and I play any online games together? No, we do not.
No.
Even if we wanted to, even if we wanted to, and even if both of us could make time, making time together to play the same game together, and to find a game that we'd want to play together would probably be close to or nigh impossible, I would think.
I would think it would actually be more efficient for me to just fly down to Texas and just go to his apartment and just play 2 players. Like that's how convoluted it would actually be.
You can just watch me fail at what was that game?
We were playing Sonic Adventure.
Yeah.
He was terrible at Sonic
Oh,
Adventure.
dear. I mean, you were just like sitting back so smug while I kept falling off ledges and everything.
Yeah, I was. It was true, but that's only because I'm really good at that game.
And I kept getting lost and I wasn't sure where I was going.
I mean, to be fair, if I'd sat there trying to play Suikoden, you'd have been laughing your ass off because I wouldn't know what the hell I was doing.
Maybe. I feel like you're the rock star of video games here.
No, not at all. Yes, we got a bunch of people from different countries. Do you guys want? Is everybody cool with that? Can you put out what country you're in? You can say the U.S. if you're a fellow American and you're apparently, like me, a traitor because you're not watching the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, I forgot that was going on.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, I was doing grad work. Always fun, and actual work. My weekend has basically sucked.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but it's better now. I get to live stream with you for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the highlight.
Yeah, we'll probably only do this for another like 20 minutes or so. I'm thinking.
That's cool.
Because I'm expected to do things over on the other channel soon.
Oh yeah, this is your live stream. I'm just jumping in.
I'm just letting you and them know. We'll probably end here at around 7 p.m. our time.
That works for me anyway, because I got to get some stuff done.
Cool.
But so I was trying to bake some stuff, and because of my nutrition, I can't have eggs or dairy, or cinnamon, or a variety of other things. So I was like, how can I bake some cookies that I can actually eat? So I learned there's something called a flax egg, where you actually take flaxseed and you just kind of get some water and you mix it together and it becomes like an egg-like substance.
Mm-hmm.
Put that in. So like some baking mix I found that was like dairy, gluten, all that stuff free, and some like chocolate chips that don't have any milk or anything in them. Dude, they turned out fantastic.
Nice.
It's like I'm eating chocolate chip cookie cake. It's so good.
That sounds badass.
It is awesome. So next time you're here, I'll have to make some for you.
For sure.
French toast.
Next time I'm in Austin, that'd be cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we got a lot of people from different countries, man. I saw so many different ones, like UK, US, Australia, Canada, Mexico.
South
a lot of
Korea.
people actually in Texas, Bulgaria, Germany, Poland, Sweden, Japan. Yeah, a lot of different countries here. Kuwait,
Oh man.
South Korea, Russia.
Oh, I can tell that you were reading further behind than I was. I was reading up. You were reading down.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch as many as I can. Thank you guys for putting that out there. I appreciate that.
Have they shown the RE2 remake yet?
Not that I know of. I'm excited. I would love to see that because Resident Evil 2 is my favorite Resident Evil game.
Yeah, it's one that I've not played. I've played the first one, the remake of the first one. That was on the GameCube.
Mm-hmm.
And I played 4, 5, unfortunately 6, and part of 7.
Mm-hmm. Save it because we did talk about that a lot on the podcast.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. There's that too.
Some people from Chicago represent.
Dreamcast, wasn't it?
From Puerto Rico, part of the U.S., but still Puerto Rico, a separate situation. Yeah, different various parts of the U.S. All over. We got some Los Angeles and other things. Do I own Snatcher on Sega CD? No, I do not. I have the Japanese Sega Saturn version, but that's by no means as interesting. While I'm sure technically better without the ability to really play it due to language. Yeah. Oh, and Brazil, obviously. Sorry, Rodrigo.
Someone's from Puerto Rico.
What?
Someone's from Puerto Rico.
I know, I said that.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh, I wasn't listening.
It's all right. I don't listen to you much when you talk. I can
One of my
relate.
coworkers is from there.
What?
He's a really smart guy.
I wasn't listening. What'd you say?
I said one of my coworkers is from Puerto Rico. He's a
All
really
right.
smart guy.
Serbia and Belgium. It's cool. I have not
Belgium.
been to either Serbia or Belgium.
A couple of bands that are from Serbia that I like listening to. Forgotten their names though. They're just on my list. Oh, speaking of bands, even though Adam, you know nothing about bands and you don't listen to music or something.
Yeah, pretty much.
Have you heard of Stab in the Dark, the Proto Men?
Nope.
So they're a band that was formed to make songs based on Mega Man, but they provide this weird, like, was it a dystopian future? Or it's like this weird setting where basically all the robots have died that Dr. Light's made. It's very dark, but it's got a lot of rock music. It's pretty good. So if anyone wants some good music that's tied to video games but has like its own kind of plot, the Proto Men, I think they're based in Tennessee, have a couple of albums out. They haven't made anything in a while, but I think apparently from the Wikipedia article, it was like some college students that basically formed a band, made something, disbanded when they graduated, then came back together like years later, made another album, and then disbanded again. But it's pretty good. Proto Man is reference to Proto Man from Mega Man, for those of you that didn't know.
We have a couple people coming to be from North Korea. That's a lie.
Poland.
Poland we've got.
Yeah, I'm going to Poland.
Yeah. I've been to Poland. I've been to Poland twice.
I'm playing any Vita games lately. Sad fact, I have a Vita. My Vita sits in a closet. I've not played it in several years now. I got it, and I know I at least have one game, and the game I have is Persona 4 Golden. Very good game. Played it for a while on the Vita, didn't beat it. And I got a PS TV with the intent of playing games like that on the TV. I don't actually know if that game is compatible with the TV, because at the time when I got the TV, I didn't realize that not all games are compatible, because I didn't do my research, sadly enough. But I actually never sat down and started playing the game again. So it's been gathering dust. That's really the only game I played on the Vita.
Sorry, man.
No, so sad. Sakura Wars was brought up.
Sakura, sir. Sakura. It means Sakura cherry blossom.
Okay, Sakura Wars. Is that on the Dreamcast? Wasn't that?
Yes, the whole set. It is, but they're all in Japan only.
Yeah, I've got those somewhere, but I don't know how to read Japanese, so I haven't played them yet.
There you go. Although I think some of them were brought over here, but not on the Dreamcast. I think PlayStation 2, maybe. Some people saying you can mod your Vita. You can also get a PS TV and firmware flash it, like unofficially.
Oh, to make it support other games or something?
Yeah, that's yeah. Because Sony never did, so hackers did.
Yeah, well, Sony dropped support for it, didn't they?
Yeah, they did pretty damn quick.
Yeah, it's a shame, because to me that was actually a clever idea. Was, hey, make a cheaper. I'm assuming it's cheaper to produce a little box that basically plays your Vita games.
Yeah, no screen,
of
course.
Alternative audience, like alternative hardware to get a different potential like audience that might just want to play on the big screen, and then you can basically sell your games to go to either platform. I thought it was a win-win, but apparently they didn't think so.
I don't know this, but I'm guessing what happened is that was the brainchild of someone at Sony who thought, hey, we could push the Vita as a home console for a bit. And then they started in on that project, and then that person stopped working there. And as a company, they lost faith in it, but they were so far along, they just decided to release it. That's all speculation. It just seems like that because of how lackluster its release was and how little they cared once it was out. It's not the actions of a company that cares about a product. And so I'm guessing the people who did care about it didn't work there by the time it was out.
That's true. Or if they did, they were on their way out fairly soon after that.
Yeah, so that's what my guess would happen there.
That makes sense.
Do I watch The Simpsons? Yeah, I haven't in a while, but I do enjoy that show, yes. There was a question for you, Chip, about do you have any special talents?
Talents? I mean, other than just being able to write code. And...
Any physical deformities? Anything weird?
I've got my right pinky toe. I can make it go sideways.
Nice. I have like super double jointed arms, but the camera angle would not. There's no way I could really show you guys.
Yeah. Oh man. Eventually your channel turned to a variety channel where you just start doing weird tricks with the double joints.
It always kind of freaks people out because I can rotate my arms in really like totally unnatural ways. I can like take my arms and like flip them over my back and all this other shit. Yeah.
Adam, do you own any CRTs?
That came up already. The only CRT I've got is the Divers 2000 Dreamcast.
Okay, yeah, I don't own any myself. Let's see.
How can the Wii U and the Switch versions be any different? If you're talking about Breath of the Wild, you can go look at that. There's a lot of footage of both compared. The Switch version is noticeably better.
But well, wait, no, hold on. What's the thinking of? What was the game that there was the comparison between the PS4 and the Switch version, and the Switch looked downgraded?
There's a joke about that being the Skyrim on the Switch. I'm not familiar with an actual game.
I feel like Review Tech USA did a comparison.
I don't know.
Or showed the comparison. I don't remember now.
No, I don't.
Oh, well.
I'm unaware.
Let's see. Your favorite GameCube game?
Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes.
And why would that be?
Because it's good. No, it's I don't know. It's just a lot of fun. I just like the regular Metal Gear Solid. I always loved it, but the fact that it was just so much more upgraded in a lot of ways, I really liked it, and it matched better with all the other 6th gen versions of Metal Gear Solid, because Metal Gear Solid 1 felt, obviously, at least especially at that point in time, very dated compared to its brothers. But Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes is probably always going to be a GameCube exclusive for 2 reasons. I think Hideo Kojima really hated that version. Well, also it doesn't even matter now because Konami is not with him anymore. But also I think the company that made it, Silicon Knights, I'm pretty sure there was some sort of court order against them because they stole code to make an X-Men game and to make some other game. Too Human, I think was the other one. So I think a lot of their assets are actually legally seized by the Canadian government, which would include that particular game. So I'm pretty sure that you'll never see Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes appear on anything else.
There you go.
It's the same thing that kind of happened with, if we're going back to the CDI, because there was people asking about the CDI at the beginning of this, there was a situation, you know how you had those Zelda games on there? There was Hotel Mario, and there was actually 2 other Mario games in development. One was called Mario's Wacky Worlds, which eventually leaked. And then there was a third one that we don't know that much about. The only thing we do know is, according to the developers who made it, they went bankrupt while they were making it, and they couldn't pay it off. So the Canadian government seized their assets, and so all the assets of this unproduced, unfinished Mario game, which apparently was mostly done for the CDI, is just sitting in a vault somewhere in Ottawa.
Huh. Did not know that.
Yeah. That one I know is true. I'm guessing with Metal Gear Solid.
Let's see. A handheld game system with a small CRT. Joking but not joking. That'd be pretty heavy. And very big.
Yeah, no thanks.
I don't think you can make that small. 3DO or a Dreamcast? What?
It's like a really obvious answer.
Yeah, it's like saying, like, do you want pizza or do you want broccoli? The answer is broccoli.
Okay. It depends on mood.
Oh, man.
Do you think Rockstar should support the Switch? It'd be nice in concept. I mean, as far as I know, Rockstar has not stated any support for the Switch. Correct me if I'm wrong. How can you send me stuff? You don't have to.
Castlevania was in the works for the GameCom.
Dude, there was so much shit for the GameCom. It's amazing, and none of it's really playable.
Oh yeah, I sent all the GameCom stuff I could to Mark from Classic Game Room years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing stayed around. He used it to beat Derek quite a lot.
Nice.
The games are terrible. Literally, the sound effects sounded like you just made this weird garbling noise.
I've got one. Ironically, even though I just said don't send me stuff, a guy sent me a GameCom along with a bunch of games, and it was essentially unplayable.
Yeah, it's amazing how bad that system was. I was asked, do I own a Game Boy Micro? I don't own a Game Boy Micro. I actually still have my original SP. I tend to give away stuff, as Adam can attest to.
Yes, I can attest to that. That's definitely true.
So I've given away my old DS, an old DSi, an old Game Boy Advance, and other stuff to various friends over the years. But I had not given away my SP, and I managed to get what was that thing called? The EverDrive for it. So I've been using that since I lost my Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color games twice now, and DS games now at this point. A lot of my original DS games are also gone. Sad day.
We got a question from this guy, Anthony Etner. This is a little complicated. Adam, if you were the head of Sony during PS3 production, would you sell the fat model for $300 in the 2006 launch, or would it have been too hard for developers? Well, the price of the console doesn't in any way affect how it performs, at least in that context, the retail MSRP. But you're essentially saying, should Sony have just sold it for $300? Fuck no. That particular console cost $900 per unit to build. They sold it for $600. They were actually giving you a really big discount on that. Selling at $300 would have been just terrible. And even at selling at $600, they were hemorrhaging money.
Yeah, I mean, really, they should have taken a step back, and when they were doing the research on this, they shouldn't have. Well, like you said, you did a whole video about this, about how arrogant they were going into the PS3.
Dude, it happens. It's not just them. I mean, every game company does that at some point.
Yeah.
They always fuck up. When they get way too successful in one console, they always screw up the next one. That's why I'm actually confident the Switch will probably be pretty good, even if nobody buys it, because the Wii U bombed like hell, so Nintendo needs this. Whereas
Hopefully
with the Wii U, they didn't have to make it good. They didn't have to try that hard because they came off the back of the Wii, which, regardless of how awful it was, it sold really well.
Yeah.
We have a viewer from Argentina. Welcome.
Hey.
Just a warning, we're probably only going to go for like another 10 minutes here, so start getting into the power round questions.
Okay, let's see. Do I not collect like Adam? No, I don't collect like Adam. I typically just get games that I want to play, although at this point I have so many I'll never get to them all, so I'll probably start giving them away again. And do I play Pokemon? I've played Red and Blue and Yellow and Gold and Silver, and whatever the generation was after that. I think I played Emerald, which is the combination of two. I got a remake. Actually, I think I played Ruby or Sapphire, one of those. But I got a remake of Ruby or Sapphire, one of those, because some of my coworkers wanted to play, and they'd already gotten it. And then right when I got it, they stopped playing, so I played it for a little bit and then stopped. I did go to a Pokemon concert, though. That was fun. Pokemon Symphony concert.
Mad Scientist says, once production is running, everything gets cheaper and easier, hence lower price. Yes, but you're talking about the launch of the console. That's not into production. And while I agree with what you're saying, they did that. They did that with the PS3 Slim. I mean, they changed the design to make it cheaper to produce.
You also have to keep in mind, sometimes parts that they use when they're producing these consoles, they can actually become more expensive if the manufacturers stop making those parts, right? If they're using off-the-shelf parts. If they're doing their own manufacturing, it's another story. But especially once parts get discontinued, sometimes that's actually why they've made another iteration. They probably already had it in the works, but if a part gets discontinued, they come with a new design that uses a similar part, right? So it doesn't always result in lower cost, although typically things like memory and the speed of a processor and that kind of stuff, typically those do in fashion become cheaper, but you may not be able to get the exact same model you already had before. So you might have to do some R&D, or at least some spend some money to get developed, or your company's tech team to actually get it to work with whatever new hardware is in there.
Why no Wii U price cut? Because Nintendo did not want that console to work? I don't know. It's kind of amazing, actually. The thing launched, I think, at $350, the deluxe model, the 32 gigabyte one. Maybe it was $400. But even by the very end, they were still selling it for $300. Like, they really never went below that, which was kind of absurd. My guess is they almost did, at some point when they realized the Switch was what they were going to do, they decided not to fuck with the Wii U, because I think they intentionally wanted to bury it. If they had basically done a fire sale and put Wii U's down for like, $50 just to get rid of them or whatever, there would have been obviously a lot of increased sales in the Wii U. If that happens, you have a bunch of potential customers completely burned who will not buy a Switch. So I think they just kind of took the lesser of two evil routes in their mind, which was to only kind of burn the people who had already had it, which I've had a Wii U. I don't feel burned by it. I've had wonderful experiences on it. And so even though it had like a year less than it would have been ideal, it's okay. But obviously not everyone's going to agree with that. Am I going to Con Bravo this year? Well, I got my Con Bravo 2016 thing here. As I mentioned before, I know you didn't watch the whole stream. That's fine. I only know a couple of conventions I'm lined up for this year. I'm going to FanQuest in Winnipeg at the end of May, and I'm going to the Missouri Game Con in August. Like 99% sure I'm going to too many games in Philadelphia at the end of June. Con Bravo, maybe. I've talked to them about it a little bit, but they're not like at the point where they're picking guests yet. And then I'm probably going to AVGC, but I'm not sure. That would be in September. Those are the only ones that are kind of tentative.
Someone asked if you foresee any other company entering the console market, and if so, who might that be?
Nope.
Yeah, I think we actually discussed this a while ago in one of our podcast episodes.
We did. Yeah, I don't know. Nobody's going to do that.
No, not at this point.
Consoles are kind of a dying tech. Gaming industry, maybe differently, but, the consoles themselves, no. Do you think the Wii U will become rare? I think it'll become rare in the sense that the Dreamcast is rare, which is not like it's hard to find a Dreamcast, but its accessories, its games, all that shit is hard to find, and it'll become more sought after. The difference, though, is with the Dreamcast, when it was closing out, it was closing out for bargain bin prices because Sega wasn't making anything else, so there was nothing to set up. Whereas the Wii U is kind of in that Sega Saturn camp where they're kind of quietly hiding it under the rug while setting up their next machine. Sega Saturn is not exactly easy to find either, but there are more Wii U's than there were ever Saturns. So, also, I don't know if you've looked into this at all, Chip. Hacking the Wii U is now a lot easier. Like a lot.
How so?
I've watched some videos on it just out of curiosity, and you can do it with like a fucking SD card and like a downloaded DS title. Like it's apparently like really easy.
Huh.
And the part of the reason for that is this should tell you a lot about how little Nintendo has cared about the Wii U. Their current system update is 5.5.1. And apparently, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure they launched that update in January of 2016.
Wow.
They haven't updated the console since. Like even one of those basic stability and performance updates, like that they don't really tell you anything. They haven't even done one of those.
I mean, Nintendo is known for releasing, especially on the 3DS, releasing updates purely geared towards breaking piracy and breaking like hacks into the system, right? Like a lot of those carts you get for the 3DS would stop working if you had a version of the 3DS that was newer than whatever the software or firmware version on the cart was. So the fact that they don't really care that much and they haven't updated the system, that definitely sells a lot.
Exactly, and I think it's with the Wii U. They haven't done it and update in over a year. I think they just legit don't give a shit. I mean, most of the games that came out for the Wii U last year were either holdover Nintendo titles where they intentionally waited so they would have something to put out for the sake of face, and then the rest were just like indie titles that normally would not have gotten a release, but they only did because Nintendo lowered the production requirements and the production fee requirements, meaning more developers could afford to, make some money on the Wii U.
Someone asked what the worst console you own is. I can take a stab at that one. The worst console that Adam owns, according to Adam, is the Neo Geo X, I believe.
That is correct, because not only did that question come up and I answered exactly the correct way, but you already knew that shit. You're on top of things.
Well, it's because you've answered it multiple times.
Yeah, exactly.
That I've heard, so.
That is, without a doubt, the worst console. Like, I fucking hate the Nintendo Wii, but like the Nintendo Wii has some redeeming qualities. The Neo Geo X is just shit in a bucket.
Well, when you come here next time, we'll try to update mine and see if that makes sense.
No, if I come there with my Neo Geo X, I might just leave it there. Oops, I forgot it.
No, I don't need more stuff. I'm trying to give you stuff.
Yeah, well, don't expect me to bring that piece of crap with me.
I have one too, so I'm saying we can update mine.
Oh, okay, good.
Let's see. Blah, 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 blah.
All right, we got time for one more question, then we out of here. Let's get a good one, like a nice, something we can talk about for a minute.
Okay.
Do you want to pick it?
I'll let you pick it. You have the better eye for these.
All right. So you awkwardly tell them a story while I wait for a good question. It better be awkward. Make sure it's awkward.
Make sure it's an awkward story?
Yeah, where it's awkward for you to tell a story on the spot.
Okay. Let's see. Story-wise, so I actually went to an art exhibit last Sunday because I'm taking art classes on Wednesday nights. And it was interesting because when I walked in, I didn't really know what to expect. I'd never been to an art exhibit, at least not one that's meant for amateur artists. And this is also a mixed studio, so you have children and you have adults. And it's kind of sad when you see half the children are better at drawing than the adults, myself included. I'm worse. But it was neat because I went in and they had these like little tiny square sticky notes you could basically write comments on and put them around this like black construction paper frame around paintings and around sketches. So I had a couple of mine up there and some other ones that were up there. And I thought it was cool. And then when I was bringing it up with my art instructor, she actually hated it because she said it distracted from the art itself. So it was an interesting perspective because I didn't actually think about that. There you go. That's the story.
All right. Thank you very much. This doesn't count because it's such a quick question. It's about the blue GameCube controller you see behind me in my videos. What's the deal with it? I did a whole video on it. Look it up. It's Controller Chaos. Like, just look that up on my channel. You'll find it. This doesn't count. Whenever I have to go to conventions, do I have to share rooms with people? Not usually, no. And if I do, it's by choice. Like I had my own room at AVGC, but my buddy Shane, Re-Res TV, wanted to go, but they couldn't afford a hotel for him as well. So I was like, yeah, fuck, just stay in my room. I don't care. It was a double. There were 2 beds. Who gives a shit? He's a buddy of mine. But usually you end up with your own room. I've never been like, oh, you have to share a room with a bunch of people you don't know. Like, that's never happened.
There's a question about, do you miss being able to rent video games from a store?
That's a pretty good one. Yes, I do. Yeah, I do miss that because that wasn't just I know to a lot, especially to a lot of younger people, that's just like a thing that's inconvenient. Like, oh, you'd have to go outside and like do that. That's dumb. Where you could just download it and try it or download a demo, whatever. Yes, while that's true, you do miss the charm of it. There was a lot of fun in the concept of it was a slogan for a while. It's a Blockbuster night. Make it a Blockbuster night. You would go to the store and you would just wander around this almost like very contemporary museum type of thing, like, because it was just everything that's popular right now was there, and you would wander around and just kind of look at all the options. You'd weigh your choices because you knew whatever you picked up was likely what your weekend was going to be, and you had so many choices for so relatively little, and it was just this cool experience, especially when you're doing it with your buddies, because you have a friend there and you guys all have to come to the same decision because we're gonna go get some coffee or we're gonna get some Pepsi or whatever, and we're gonna stay up all night. We're gonna beat whatever fucking game this is. This is our night. So you had to make sure you didn't pick the shitty one. And I miss the fun of that. Part of that is also being a kid and the charm, of that era of your life. But I feel bad for kids now who can't get to experience that because that was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely think I'm influenced by nostalgia. Like you said, going with some friends, wandering around, finding a game that would be fun to play is also where, because at the time that I was wandering around, this is probably late 90s, especially what I remember. Even with the internet really existing, there wasn't that much information out there at the time, and I wasn't really using the internet that much at the time. In fact, I think I barely used it at all except for some school assignments. And just that rental stores were a way for me to find out what kind of games existed, right? A lot of times I didn't actually know what was out there, and so when I was wandering around, some of these rental stores would actually have some pretty interesting, like, rare games, like some rare selection games. Like I forgot as well, one of the games I bought from Movie Gallery when they were closing shop, at least in Alabama, was The Misadventures of Tron Bonne, which is a spin-off of the Mega Man Legends series, and it's actually I think it's a pretty hard to find game now, or even if you can find it, it's not that cheap to get. But like games like that, the Rhapsody game and some other ones that were just weird games that I wouldn't even have considered looking for or known where to look for, and I guarantee you a place. I don't even know if GameStop existed. I know I had an EV game somewhere, but I don't know if those kind of mainstream stores even carried those titles at the time. So it's pretty fun to go and find some of those games, like Ogre Battle, March of the Black Queen is another one I found, and really introduce yourself. So for me, it's a lot of the trial runs, because a lot of times, especially before you had the whole digital download stuff, there wasn't really a way to download the game and try it quickly. It's either to me, rentals were the way to demo a game, right? Mm-hmm. And I still think that's the way to demo the game, because if you take a game that's not out yet, I actually don't know that many companies that release demo games anymore. Like Resident Evil 7 had some demo games that were actually not even in the full game. They were just like demos. I think Stanley Parable had that kind of stuff, but a lot of them either they're like, oh, here's like a little bit that we have so far if they're in early access, or they don't really have that much of a demo, and then they just have like a full release, and you get it and you hope it's good. But the concept of being able to play a game for a little while and pay for this many days of play and then send it back, to me is still useful, especially when the game's already out, because that's basically your form of demoing the game, right? So I definitely miss it for that capability. I mean, you still see things like Redbox, and Netflix can still ship you DVDs, although you have the digital version of Netflix as well. It's not like we need, even though Adam doesn't like digital and I don't really do digital that much except for some PC games. It's not like you need like a digital rental service, and I'm sure that one of those exists out there now for video games, but I'm surprised someone like Steam hasn't made that kind of service yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, in a sense, I mean, I could be wrong, but doesn't Steam have a policy of like you can return a game within a certain number of like hours or something? So in theory, that's what that is.
For the longest time, they did not, and that I'm aware of. If you use it too much, it's like abuse it and lose it system. So if you keep doing that and you keep returning it, then basically it's like, hey, you're trying to basically beat the game for free, right?
Yeah, I gotcha.
It's not like a rental where you pay to play for so many days and it's a cheap cost and you get the full game, right? This is basically you pay the price for the game and then you get a refund and you no longer pay for the game at all. And I'm saying more of a pay a little bit of money and have access to the game for so many days, right? Kind of system.
I got you. All right. I'm going to do a couple of power round questions and then we out. So real quick, would you buy a digital Dreamcast 2? Hell no, I would not. Should you get your friend the component Super Nintendo cables? Absolutely not. I talked about that way earlier in the stream. Crystal Pepsi and Pepsi Blue, do I remember them? Yes. Crystal Pepsi you can get. It's okay. Still, Pepsi Blue was kind of gross. What does Rare have to do to be awesome again? Hopefully, what is it? Sea of Thieves or whatever they're doing is good. So there you go. There's your power round. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Chip, for jumping in here. Much appreciated.
Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, no problem. All right, guys. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.